Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. So I hope everyone's doing good. I had a pretty good weekend, and yesterday was St. Patty's Day, of course. So, yeah, and I went to Bill Mo- or not, I shouldn't say. I went to Goodwill yesterday to buy some movies. I was down in Rockland in the morning yesterday, so I decided to stop in there and I bought a bunch of movies, and I was really excited by my purchases. And so, again, it's one of those things you just never know what you're going to find there. And I have gotten so many great Blu-rays at the Goodwill in Rockland, especially the last year or two. It's just been super fabulous. So I'll be doing some shows on some of the movies that I bought. It's always funny because I typically when I go to Goodwill in Rockland, there's another Goodwill, which is closer for me, which is right in Belfast, which is about 10 minutes away. There's that Goodwill. Occasionally, I find some good things there. I have bought quite a few movies there, but generally, the best spot is the Goodwill in Rockland, and I'm down in Rockland quite a bit, and I go down to that area a fair amount. So I try to hit it up. I hadn't been there in a while, and I got some really good Blu-rays. But I typically, when I'm there and I buy Blu-rays, occasionally I'll buy a DVD. But I usually try to stick with buying Blu-rays. They have a lot of more bigger budget Hollywood oriented kind of films. I've completed most of my Marvel collection through going there, so just awesome. And I got a movie yesterday. One movie, I got a bunch of movies yesterday, but one of the movies that I got, which I was super excited about, and it's actually one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies of all time, and that is The Hateful Eight. I love this movie to death. I think this movie, you know, I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I think there's something special about this movie, though. I don't know. It's just like it's so. I feel like Tarantino reached a certain kind of new level in his writing and his directing in this movie. You know, I cover lots of movies and my favorite genre in where I try to showcase my favorite genre, and that is the grindhouse exploitation world. And recently, I met this really awesome guy online, and I've been watching his channel. And he's a British YouTube guy, and his name is 42nd Street Forever. He is this guy is literally a living, breathing, walking encyclopedia of all things and everything tied to the world of exploitation. Super cool. I discovered his channel through another guy who is pretty much my favorite YouTube guy, and that is Mood616. He's a Canadian dude from who specializes. He covers lots of different genres, but his main thing is the world of exploitation and horror, sleazy. A lot of the horror exploitation movies. Everything really entail with that style. His last video that he posted, he was talking about he had basically made this recommendation to go and check out this guy who goes under the name of 42nd Street Forever, and he's this British YouTube guy who is he felt was the best thing around, and he felt is the most knowledgeable when it comes to that genre, and he watches his channel all the time, and I guess is friends with him. So from that show, I started checking out this new channel for me, 42nd Street Forever, and I was just blown away. It's just amazing. The guy goes into some deep stuff about some of the greatest genre of all time. He dives deep in the sewer and the dark recesses of all things exploitation, and his knowledge is like staggering. His collection is insane, and he just comes across as just so in love with that style, and he just has so much knowledge about every film that he talks about. Just so much passion. He's got a great sense of humor. It's just great. So I've been in correspondence with him a little bit, and which has been awesome. And we talked about maybe doing a show together because this guy is he could be teaching. If there was such a thing, or maybe there is, like a college level appreciation, like from a film historian's perspective, about say the world of exploitation. This guy would be that person. And one of the things that he talked about recently about, the world of exploitation, on how it's really influenced a lot of modern, directors that are very well known. And he talked about obviously Quentin Tarantino being really influenced by the world of exploitation. Um, Other people he talked about were, Robert Rodriguez and also Brian De Palma, and totally spot on about all of his kind of analogies about how he explains, what that world, that the CD world is, or what it's kind of comprised of in the world of exploitation. But obviously, Tarantino is very much influenced by the world of grindhouse cinema, and you see it in all of his films, and you definitely see it in The Hateful Eight. Like, this movie is like a love letter to, the classic kind of spaghetti western and the exploitation, um, the exploitation version of a western, where it's very different from, say, your, you know American western, which I equally love, in a lot of ways. Like, say, the iconic American director John Ford, all of his iconic films with John Wayne. Typically, a lot of the spaghetti westerns, Sergio Leone, Lucio Fulci, so many directors made, so many Italian directors. The spaghetti western is a mass of, collection of films. My first exposure to spaghetti westerns was, of course, Sergio Leone. And over the years, I've realized how there's also so many other Italian directors that also dove into the world of the Wild Wild West. And typically a lot of these exploitation spaghetti western movies, they're obviously, very very dirty and nasty and raw and just like, just in your face. And Quentin Tarantino has talked extensively about his deep love of the spaghetti western and the that exploitation kind of subgenre of the western. And the other thing that's really interesting is he actually hired Ennio Morricone does the film score for The Hateful Eight, and he actually won the Academy Award for Best Score when this film came out. And again, I'm a huge Tarantino fan, but there's something about this movie that I think it's one of his best. It might actually be my favorite Tarantino movie. I just feel like he hit this certain kind of stride with the way he directed and the just his mastery of being a storyteller. And this movie is also a total bloodbath. I watched this movie last night on Blu-ray. I've never seen it on Blu-ray, and it is just glorious. It's all shot 8 millimeter. I mean, it is. You get like a sense or a picture of like a bygone era, of how at one point films were shot, and where you get that complete immersive experience. And they truly don't make films like this anymore. It came out in 2015. The cast is one of the most iconic assembly of actors really ever, I think. I mean, of course, you have Samuel L. Jackson, the incredible Jennifer Jason Leigh, which I think it's easily her best performance ever. She was nominated, I believe, for an Academy Award for this movie. Of course, the iconic Kurt Russell, Tim Roth, Walton Coggins, Channing Tatum is so great in this film also, which was such a surprise. Damien Bakar is amazing as well. The iconic Michael Madsen, just amazing. And the film, the other thing that's so interesting about this movie, I'd never seen it on Blu-ray before, and this is an amazing edition. It's got a nice little slipcover. I got it for $9, and it was sealed. It was not used at all, and it's got a nice little slipcover. You know, it was unused, and it has the movie. Actually, it has 2 discs in here, and it's a DVD copy and also the Blu-ray copy. It's got a pretty good amount of special features on here. It's got a little mini documentary on the making of the Hateful Eight, and it goes into detail of how they shot this film using the old school special cameras with the 8 millimeter science that was available then, and kind of the limitations, but then how that filmmakers were under then, but then the amount of work and care that was needed to film to give this film that kind of look is it's one of the most gorgeous films I think ever shot. I got a chance to see this in the theater, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I remember seeing it opening weekend, and I think it's one of the greatest. It might even be my favorite Tarantino movie, and that's saying a lot, but I think it's, aside from that, I think it's one of the best kind of westerns ever. The other thing that's so interesting is it's a murder mystery. It's such a character study. The writing for this film is just like, again, it's next level. Even for Tarantino, which of course he is so well known for his like magical dialogue. And I think even for him, this movie is kind of this next level, this higher, at this higher stage. And it also feels like an Agatha Christie movie. I've heard this movie described as like a murder mystery film, and it's you have to pay attention to all of these little finite details that happen throughout the movie. Like, I've seen this movie quite a few times. This was my first time ever seeing it on Blu-ray, and I've seen this movie probably about 4 or 5 times, and I noticed these little clues in the beginning of the movie as to what was going to come your way by the end of this movie, which is like just so over the top and amazing. I noticed all these little subtle clues around, who the real conspirators are, and it was great. It was just awesome. Like, all these little, tiny little details. And the dialogue for the Hateful Eight is just magical. And this is the level of suspense for this film, with combined with Ennio Morricone's masterful score, is just like, it's pure grip your seat, nail biting suspense, and it's so character driven. And I forgot how gory and how over the top violent, how it's just pure ultra violence by the end of this movie. Like, it's got to be, this film has one of the best like payoffs in this. Like, the first half, the first, second, and even part of the third act, it's basically just 5 or 6 guys talking in a room, and it's all centered in one location. And there's so much fireworks, and I just think that's testimony to just how incredibly well directed this movie is. And it just has it just sucks you in. Like that's how this movie is for me. It just like the minute it's on, you're just like, wow, like this is just next level. I want to watch it again because it's just so damn good. And watching it on Blu-ray, this edition is sublime. I've never. It's like watching it for the first time. It's almost as good seeing it as seeing it in the theater. Maybe just as good. So, and the and the other thing that's interesting is it's all the first act, second act, most of the and half of the third act. It's all dialogue driven. Like it doesn't have, say tons of gunfights or tons of action, but the dialogue is so strong. And when you get to the kind of the plot reveal of where shit really hits the fan, it is so like it's. I think for in terms of payoffs that you get for watching a movie, it's got to be one of the greatest payoffs ever. I mean, it's ultra violent. It's so gory too. It feels like you're watching. I think the gore factor and the blood factor and the violence in this movie are so over the top, but so well done that it definitely has elements and shades of, pure horror in it. And I didn't really think of that before. Like I always knew the movie, changes and evolves, and it eventually becomes really gory and bloody. But watching this movie, it's like wow, it's almost like an Italian, gore fest of a movie. It's so great. One of the ultimate payoffs ever. And I think, Tim Roth is cast, Samuel Jackson, the whole cast, like they just shine. I think it's all Bruce Dern, one of the best casts. You have all of an assemblage of all of these iconic actors, Kurt Russell, and I think it's, possibly easily one of their collectively or individually their some of their finest performances ever. In each of these, actors long, very long and extensive, incredible careers. Like it's just amazing, and the stars really aligned for this movie. Like it really is just amazing. And I think that again, this might be my favorite Tarantino movie. I love the murder mystery aspect. I love how it is. It's like a slow burn, but then when you get into it, you're just getting more and more information coming your way through this brilliant dialogue, and you just get pulled into it more and more, and then it's like the ultimate payoff. It's just fantastic. It's really gritty. It's really dirty. It's really nasty. Again, Tarantino, massive. He's always incorporated elements of like the classic grindhouse exploitation cinema, and this movie really has that kind of vibe to it, big time. Everything from like the cinematography to like the fonts that are used for the opening credits. Obviously, the music by Ennio Morricone, the and even the way the dialogue is handled, and definitely the violence in the movie, where it's gory as hell, and it's like brutal as all hell, and there's no holding back, for the at when your jugular is attacked, or when you're getting that knife to your jugular, it's the blood will flow, and that certainly happens in this movie, and it's just yeah, it's just incredible. I'm really wanting to watch this again. Super excited to buy this movie. I had been wanting to buy this on Blu-ray for a very, very long time, and I just haven't come across it. I did see it a few times in some of the shops, and it was on the more expensive side. But again, that's the thing about Goodwill that's so awesome is you can find really great films like this, and on Blu-ray, immaculate quality, and most of the movies that I bought, and this one in particular, was unused, so it hasn't been touched, and it was all sealed. So just awesome. I can't recommend this movie enough. I know a lot of people are familiar with this movie, but definitely see this again and buy it. Or if you're a physical media person like me, this is essential. I mean, it really is one of the most gorgeous looking films ever on Blu-ray. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. So thanks again. This is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace.